Hey, y'all, bringing in for another War Rapport Wednesday. Of course, that means I'm joined by our good friend from the War Rapport, co-founder, co-host, and, of course, overall awesome human being, Mike G. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. We have reached the off season for football, but college football playoffs is on this weekend, so I'm looking forward to enjoying some good football.
Absolutely. Should be a lot. Again, we have 12 teams, a whole lot to take in at that point. Got some teams on byes, but let's also talk about basketball. So, Auburn had that stumble against Duke. They took all their frustrations out on Ohio State, apparently. Johni Broome goes to a 20-20 game. Auburn dominates the game in Atlanta. Overall, let's talk about Johni. You mentioned how he could possibly be the best player in the country. He proved it against Ohio State that he could be in that elite echelon. Just your overall reaction to that game.
When Auburn needs to get back in that game, they turn to Johni Broome. He is the guy. Now, reports are he received a very handsome sum to return to Auburn this season. But look, he's worth every penny that they paid in an NIL from an NIL standpoint, and he's showing it so far on the court. The issue in college basketball for a lot of teams in terms of making championship runs is turnover, and your best players going to the NBA every year. How can you make a run truly? Well, somehow Bruce Pearl recruited a team and got his best players to return, added some new players and some young talent, and look at what they're doing. That game against Duke, I don't think said a lot about the ceiling for this team. Look, it was a lot of teams have gone into Cameron Indoor and come out unsuccessful.
Right.
I wouldn't say officiating was in their favor in that game as well either. But look, it was a tough game. I think they showed that they're one of the best teams in the country right now. They're still rated number 2 overall, which I think they've earned. And they came back and they just completely ran an opponent off the court. So we've got a game tonight. I'm going to hit up to Auburn to cover, I think they're just as good as advertised, and that's large part because of Johni Broome.
And Johni Broome, if he, like Mike mentioned, worth every penny and also worth the price of admission. One thing that Bruce Pearl has also shown is that he's a tremendous recruiter, even in the NIL era. And one of his biggest priorities has been Atlanta. Playing that game in Atlanta, you saw a lot of Auburn orange out there.
Hoopsgiving.
Right, Hoopsgiving was fantastic.
Yeah.
Does this show that, again, the Auburn brand is great in the neighboring state of Georgia?
Yeah, like Auburn has a very strong alumni base in Atlanta. And so it's practically a home game. If you've ever driven from Auburn to Atlanta, that's an easy drive up 85. So look, this fan base is going to travel for this coach and for this team. They are absolutely putting on a show everywhere they go. They played Indiana in Atlanta. I went to cover that game last year. And, Auburn won that one. It was a great game. And fans showed up again. So week after week, Auburn continues to give fans reasons for optimism about a deep run into March. All the problems that plagued them last year with failing to be able to score in critical moments. It seems like when we saw that game, versus Ohio State,
right,
it seems like it's gone.
All of it's gone.
Right, yeah. And what you've seen at times this year against the tougher teams is they've gone down big and had to come back from double-digit deficits. They essentially wire just wiped Ohio State. I think they just about 40-pieced them.
It was crazy.
Yeah, it was a dominant win. Good teams need to win dominantly from time to time. You need to win tough games from time to time. I think Auburn has shown us both sides of that coin.
Absolutely. Let's switch it back to football. As Mike mentioned, we are officially in the offseason, but that also means the transfer portal is crazy busy. Now, Auburn made a big splash by following through with signing Deuce Knight, but now they get Jackson Arnold coming to the Plains, a former 5-star from Texas, and a lot of facts were thrown out about the highest recruit to ever come to the Plains. He was kind of dealt a really short hand over that Oklahoma because, if you guys didn't know at home, basically all the wide receivers for Oklahoma got injured.
Everyone got hurt.
Literally everyone got hurt. Jackson Arnold brings a lot of potential to the Plains. What is your reaction when he came and decided to say, Auburn's my new home?
I think that it shows that Auburn is still a place where people feel like they can win. And so you go here because you've got brand recognition. You're still in the SEC. You're still on college football's biggest stage. And when you look at this college football playoff, you've got 3 solid contenders in there from the SEC. The SEC had a chance to get 5 in there. Mm-hmm. And if you're Jackson Arnold, you're looking back at that Oklahoma game against Auburn, which you did not play in, by the way, and you're thinking, man, with the talent that they have over there, I could be the piece that puts them over the hump. Look, Auburn turned over their entire quarterback room this offseason.
Really did.
We all knew that Peyton Thorne was out of eligibility, so he's gone. I spoke with him recently. Looking forward to seeing what he can do in his football future. But Rex, Walker White, left, top 50 overall recruit. I think that was a bit of a hit for Auburn. You got Deuce Knight coming in, but you lost Hank Brown, which was experience. You lost Holden Geriner, which we expected.
Right.
But so far, this is going to be a brand new QB room with Deuce Knight. You've got Jackson Arnold, and they just signed Ashton Daniels from Stanford, right? So they're bringing a mix of experience, and they're setting this thing up for Deuce Knight to maybe be the heir apparent. But the thing about the QBs that they brought in is both of them have multiple years of eligibility left, right? Which is why you may have seen some of the other quarterbacks dip, right? Yeah, because if you're going to bring guys in like Jackson Arnold with multiple years of eligibility left, this may not be a advantageous situation for somebody like Walker White, who still has 4 years left to play, but he doesn't. Now you're on the clock. You burned your red shirt, so you don't want to sit behind a guy for 2 years and then still possibly not be the guy come 2027. Like, why would you wait that long? So I think Jackson Arnold, with the commitment, the financial commitment that goes behind some of these kids, he's likely your starter. I don't expect much of a QB battle this spring. I know fans don't want to hear that, but you don't pay a guy what they're probably paying him and then sit him. You just don't.
And with that, stability is something that they're always looking for, especially at the quarterback position. Peyton and Hank Brown was going back and forth. You mentioned the name in Walker White. A lot of people were, as you mentioned, it was a hit. There was a lot of potential with what he could do in an Auburn uniform. Have you been able to talk to him, and has he been able to explain exactly why he made this choice?
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken with Walker White's camp, and that's Walker's story to tell.
Gotcha.
But one thing is, there's been a lot of things on social media about his mother's health. His mother's battling cancer right now. Miss Amy is strong and she's doing well.
That's outstanding.
And Walker's making a football decision.
Got it.
His mom's health has nothing to do with his decision to transfer, look for someplace else to play. And most importantly, their family wants people to know that they want Walker to do what's in his best interest.
Fantastic.
Right? And so, look, it doesn't always work out. I think when you recruit at a high level, you have to get used to high-level attrition. You're going to have high-level guys leave your program every year. Do you remember a couple years ago, Georgia had Justin Fields, Jacob Fromm,
and I think Carson was like,
Eason that was in there with him.
Eason was in the room as well.
All of them ended up being starter quarterbacks at the Power 5 level, right? One went to Washington, Fields went to Ohio State.
Brought them to the playoff.
And Fromm stayed put. But all of those guys were capable of leading that program.
Absolutely.
And they somehow got them all to Georgia, but there was no way to keep them there.
That's fair.
So even the best programs cannot hold on to multiple 4- and 5-star talents in the same room. These guys all want to play. I think it's the same situation at Auburn.
And I think you bring up an excellent point. With this new quarterback room, a lot of them have multiple years of eligibility. So, again, Walker probably looked at the room like, okay, didn't work out here. I'm sure there's another opportunity for him. So we wish him all the best. And Miss Amy, keep on fighting the good fight. Keeping with Deuce Knight, he is that guy who is the future. I think he's been pretty clearly marked as the future. There's been a lot made about the number he's going to wear. We know that numbers are important to a lot of these players. It's part of their identity. And we'll just say, because we're on this format, the famous number 2, worn by Cam Newton, he just said emphatically no. I think that's a fair way to say. Emphatically, I'm not comfortable with Deuce wearing number 2. And when you hear it, because he said it on his own podcast, that I want Deuce to create his own legacy. And to be fair, Cam has a statue outside the stadium. So, the guy won a national champion. He's a Heisman winner. Just your overall reaction, because am I making too big of a thing? Is it a thing? I don't know. Just your overall reaction.
Yeah, I just think if you win a Heisman, you deliver an undefeated national championship season and a Maxwell Award, and you do something that, for fans, that most QBs will never be able to do.
Right.
This isn't just about being a Heisman. This is about delivering one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen in college football history. You own the number, and that's just my opinion.
That's fair.
I think that the number 2 belongs to Cam and nobody else. And you talk to LSU fans about the numbers 9 and 7, and it's not even a question. Nobody wears those numbers, man. You're not doing that. The guys who wore those numbers did incredible things that will probably not be replicated in our lifetime if we're lucky, right? And so, if you're Cam, you carried that team to a national title.
Really
not
good.
Another offensive draft pick on that team. And they won a national title. And to underscore how much he carried that team, defensively, Auburn gave up more points than any national champion in the history of college football ever. And they still won because Cam was able to lift them from the depths of hell every single time, man. Come on, like let's just give the guy the respect. I think that he's earned that. He's earned that in his place in history, and his number deserves to be worn by only him moving forward, unless he says it's okay. Now, to give you an idea of how much weight Cam Newton carries around Auburn, he came back for a pro day last year.
Right.
And we're filming pro day, and he came to throw to his brother, Kalen Newton. Right. So Cam's there, and we're in the indoor facility, Rex, and it's kind of quiet, and scouts are there, and reporters are there, and Cam says, "Can we get some music going in here?" 30 seconds later, all Cam's favorite music was blasting over the.
That's wild.
Yeah, right. The speakers in there, right? And so it was kind of fun to see that. He was fun to watch. He made an incredible throw that you just don't ever see.
Right.
Kind of doing a dipsy do and running backwards. Look, man, Cam Newton is Cam Newton. In my book, I think that he should be afforded that luxury to say. I tweeted this out. With all the things he accomplished. And a statue outside the stadium, you own the number, buddy. I'm not arguing with you.
And I have to agree with you. Look, kids, if you are watching this, go YouTube it. All that stuff that happened in that season was insane. It's video game stuff. And I think there is something also to be said about how Cam is challenging dudes to create your own legacy. This number, he created his own legacy. And even in that soundbite that we played, Cam said, "I don't have a junior for that reason." And also, if chosen, one of his sons gets the opportunity to play at Auburn, he's not going to wear number 2. So I think Deuce has a bright future. Now, with all the stuff that's happening in the transfer portal, overall, your optimism for the upcoming season?
I'm indifferent.
There you go.
there are a lot of things to sort out. I really want you to ask me this question again after the spring.
That's fair.
And we see how everything looks. But Auburn has enough talent to go 8-4, right? Can they reach that? Can they exceed that? That's going to be the question for me. But either way, we should not see another 5-7 season. Even 6-6 at this point would be unacceptable to me. In the era of the portal, go get the guys you need and make this thing happen. That's what Auburn has to do. So you went out and you got a quarterback that's got SEC starting experience, former 5-star. You've got the receiver room that he needs, right? So the exact opposite situation that he was in at Oklahoma last year. Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, Malcolm Simmons, Bryce Kane, and they're trying to get the number 1 player in the portal, which is Eric Singleton from Georgia Tech, the wide receiver. This could be another really, really good wide receiver room. You've got a solid backup returning in running back in Damari Alston, and then you add some young talent from high school. Gotta win. You have to win. They also had a big pickup at left tackle in the portal from Virginia Tech. Chaplain. So they're doing well here in terms of trying to
6'8", 300 plus pounds. He's a building.
You don't find studs at offensive line in the portal very often because those guys don't have to transfer to. They'll come get you where you're at if you're on offensive line. So big pickup for Auburn there. I think they're going to continue to build this. I got less questions about players, Rex, and more questions about how the coaches are going to use the players.
And this is where we had the
more questions about system.
That's
questions about system.
Well, we'll have to see because, again, it's great to win the transfer portal. It's great to winning those recruiting class rankings, but let's see what happens on those Saturdays next season. We have to switch gears now. The Auburn family was rocked by a horrible loss, a sudden loss of Chette Williams. Brother Chette has been the team chaplain for Auburn University football for over 20 years. He was assigned in 1999 by Tommy Tuberville. We have seen these past couple days, Mike, the tributes to his incredible legacy. I was talking to Will Herring, who's traveling right now, and he wasn't able to talk at the time, but I would imagine the amount of people that he's impacted, Brother Chette, could fill up Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Yeah.
You had shared on Twitter as well that there have been times where you were able to get some mentorship from him. And head coach Tuberville mentioned during that 04 season, he plugged Brother Chette as he's the reason why we're so successful, of how faith-driven that team was. I know it's very recent, and I know it probably still hurts, but what would you say about his legacy?
He left an incredible legacy. Chette Williams was one of those rare human beings that you come across that I have a soft spot for people who give a damn about other people when they don't have to, right? And that was Chette Williams. As a student, I remember going to sit down in his office, 2002, and I was down about life and some things. And he saw me walking in the hallway, and he said, "Mike, what's going on?" And I was carrying my camera. I said, "Yeah, I'm just kind of down, and I won't share what that was about." But he said, "Go put your camera down and come to my office." And I went to his office, and Chette prayed for me, and he gave me some life advice that I carry with me to this very day, and that's the type of person he was. He wouldn't let you pass him in the hallway with a frown on your face and not stop to try to see if there's something that he could do, whether it was a good word, whether it was just a hug, a handshake, an encouraging word. Man, you mentioned he meant so much to so many people, and it goes beyond athletics, right? It wasn't just athletes. It was everybody he came in contact with. The world lost an incredible human being, and I know the details are still coming out, but my heart is sad for the way that we lost him. And I hope that for everybody that he's touched, that they have a chance to properly grieve and that we get to honor his legacy for the type of person that he was and the impact that he had on so many lives. I think that so many times it goes unappreciated, those people who will stop and care about people who are no use to them whatsoever, right? Like that will never do anything for them. That was Chette Williams, man. Just a great guy. I almost don't have words to explain the type of person he was, but he meant a lot to a lot of people.
I know that the Auburn family, like yourself, is grieving right now, so we're praying for all of you. I know that Chette Williams family, obviously, it's a dark time, but we are praying for all of you on the plains and everyone who's touched. And a life that's, Andy Bertram mentioned that an incredible light has gone. And at this time, I know that we have, you do incredible work with the War Rapport, and all that will be explained in the article below, but we would just want to take a moment of silence and honor Chette Williams, an incredible legacy, and unfortunately gone too soon. A life gone, but a legacy that will live on.